Welcome back. Today we're going to spend a few words revisiting a couple favorite IMs I just wanted to revisit and say a few more words on. And before we get to the DT6 Pro, the TRN BA5, this is the Fiil T1X, which is what people happen to be talking about on HeadFi lately in the wireless section. If you're looking for a gift for yourself, do some research. People are talking about it. It's kind of the new hot thing after the Liberty Pro 2s, mainly because this has app support on iPhone, not on Android yet, but sounds good and app support, AptX codec. So this is what people are talking about for the past couple weeks. I just happened to have it, so I would mention it. So we'll throw that guy to the side. So the DT6 Pro, I looked it up again this morning on AliExpress. It's back at about $24. So a couple weeks ago, I did a DT6 Pro review video, which is somewhat cursed because I lost the first 30 seconds and I rushed it. And so I said, I'll go back and either do a new video or try to mention some things that I didn't necessarily get right the first time. So if you go back and look at that video, a couple super helpful commenters, Christian Alexander, Psykosonicwarrior mentioned, oh, the instruments actually sound much better than a DT6. They're much more natural. They sound kind of just like other IMs in the same price range. And at first, when I got this, right after 11/11, I got my hands on it, rushed it, listened to Hotel California as soon as I got it, and I think it's, I should have taken my own advice and never really be too critical on that first listen, right? Your ears were used to listening to either, in my case, I think it was a BA5 or whatever it is. It takes a little time for your brain and ears to get adjusted, and I don't think I gave this one kind of a fair shake. I said, oh, Hotel California, a couple other songs I had in my playlist all sounded the same as the DT6, but then after listening to all the songs on the DT6 that I mentioned the first time, and a couple days later, it would sound much better. And so after those guys commented, I said, oh, let me go back and take a listen. And yeah, I think they're totally right. I think that added level of treble that you now get in the Pro really fixed a lot of that initial wonkiness with instruments, pianos and guitars, that where you only had kind of this thick, syrupy, weird note that didn't really resemble the actual instrument because it was missing some of the higher end. So now, put the higher end back, now it all sounds pretty much in line with where it should be. And I think, as I mentioned in the original video, they reined in the bass. It's a little more controlled now, so it's not that it isn't big bass. It's totally big bass, but not quite as big as the original DT6. Everything is kind of tightened, a little more in line, more with what I think people expect in an IM, whereas the DT6 was just a little bit out of bounds with how much bass was going on, but worked for me. I love it, and actually love the DT6 Pro as well, so that didn't really change. I got that right, at least in the original video, but I think on the treble level, there were some guys on HeadFi who kind of complained that it's a bit too much, and so if you go back and listen to Dido's Hurricane, the acoustic version that just came out, you'll kind of hear that. The guitar level is probably a tad too high. Like if you have an EQ, I would have bumped it back down just a little bit because I was going back and forth with a TFZ number 3, and the guitar level on that was kind of just under her voice. On this, it's kind of right at her voice, and the two don't compete, but I think the presentation sounds just slightly better if the guitar was knocked back a little notch, but that's still, it's not really why I listen to the DT6 Pro. That's I still like it for bass driven, dance, EDM, all those things. It's definitely better on acoustic and other music with actual real instruments, but I'll probably always pick it up for dance music and go for something else, the Blonde or the BA5 for other types of music. But so I just wanted to clear that up, that Yes, I think they did actually fix a lot of the instrument problems, reined in the bass a little bit. A couple more, more significant changes than I think initially when I did the review, where it sounded like it was, a DT6 with a slight tweak to the treble. But I think it's that small tweak actually solved a few of the initial problems. So the BA5, TRN BA5, maybe a couple of you caught Bad Guy Good Reviews unboxing of this guy. And he kind of mentioned a couple things that I had talked about, like it isn't really the successor to the V90. It doesn't sound anything like the V90. It sort of resembles the Blonde more than the V90. And if you go back to my video, you'll see that Kopio Kaya, who tuned the V90 and the BA5, left a great message as to some of his thoughts on his decisions in tuning it, why it really wasn't the successor to the V90. It was a totally new thing, and it's not necessarily tuned like the Blonde because he didn't have the Blonde, but it is tuned more like a single dynamic driver as opposed to a BA5, because that is his favorite type of IEM. So that being said, so the Bad Guy Good Review video sort of talked about his playlist is kind of typically Tupac and classic rock, and so it's kind of I remember running through my playlist, and this is sort of how it all works, where I just start listening to music and I'll take notes on certain songs which sound really good, and I'll note those and I'll keep on refining those until I get to some list that's reasonable for doing a video. The songs that really make this thing shine. And but I do remember going back and listening to classic rock, because I have a lot of his same music in a classic rock playlist, and those didn't really stand out to me. And that was why initially I picked Sonic Youth Dirty Boots. And something about a more modern rock sound than the classic rock sound stands out on these guys more than any classic rock. And I do have a couple of classic rocks, so Fleetwood Mac's Dreams, Kiss, Detroit Rock City, Space Oddity, Rolling Stones, Hotel California. So some of those stood out, but they're not really enough that it actually made the video, because there was just better songs that make this sound much better than going back to that period. So yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting. Rap, I don't think there's any rap on here, because without sub bass it's just not going to sound right. And rather than classic rock, some of the ones that kind of caught me, so Sonic Youth, Coldplay. I will double down on Coldplay with the BA5 any day. Everyday Life, that new one, sounds super good. Or harder rock, Marilyn Manson's Cry Little Sister. If you haven't heard that song before, check that one out. Limp Bizkit, Billy Joel's Piano Man is another kind of a classic song. But, I kind of honed in on female vocals, Tori Amos, Lorena McKinnon, Lana Del Rey, Shawn Mendes, Christopher Cross, Prince. A lot of these vocals sounded really good on the BA5, and I just kind of kept moving. I never really went back to classic rock. I just kind of kept on moving forward into more modern sounds, and then you end up, at the just released Coldplay CD, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds exactly like it should on the BA5. It sounds great because it's got strings and guitars and drums and Chris Martin's vocals. All that just makes this thing shine, as opposed to, Aerosmith or Fleetwood Mac. I probably talk about Fleetwood Mac Dreams all the time. I always listen to it. Just didn't really, I think you could actually see here. So White Noise, oddly, once you hear White Noise on one song, and you don't really hear it on the Blonde or anything else, but there's kind of this background white noise that you hear on Dreams, and there's somewhere, and then Everything in Its Right Place by Radiohead. So yeah, one of these nights I kind of got fixated on hearing white noise that I'd never really heard, and maybe that's a detail, but Excuse me. So I got caught up in that one night. So that's it. I just wanted to, for those of you who were thinking about the BA5 and may have been scared off by his meh, he kind of said it was okay. So I sort of agree on that playlist. It's kind of okay at best, but there's definitely more modern music that makes this thing sound really great. So that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in, and hope you have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.